Welcome, everybody. My name is Atle Schekkeland. I'm a Microsoft MVP for Purview and the CEO of Infotection. And Infotection is one of the leading Microsoft partners in the world for specializing on Purview, data security and governance, but also add-on solutions. I'm excited to have you join our webinar, How to Avoid Data Breaches, because with data breaches becoming more common and more costly, understanding how they happen and how to prevent them or reduce the risk when it happens is becoming more and more essentials. I'm joined today by two outstanding speakers. One is here, Danica Lodholt. She's Principal Group Product Manager for Microsoft Purview, who leads an innovation in data protection, governance, and inside risk capabilities. And Danica will share Microsoft controls that have the greatest impact for you. Second is Vivek Bhatt. He's co-founder and CTO of Infotection, and he brings deep expertise and experience through guiding enterprises through large-scale Purview deployment and add-on solution. Vivek will focus on the roles, the responsibilities, the skill sets required for effective data security, and how that clear ownership and governance help organizations avoid breaches or reduce the risk when it happens. Feel free to submit questions in the chat. We'll try to answer this as we go along. I'm not good at multitasking, so I'll try to do that after my intro sessions. But we also save some time at the end to address questions. This session is being also recorded, and we will send an email out probably on Monday with copies also of the slides. Okay, let's get going. So, data has become an asset, as many of you are aware of, that adds value. As an example, the more data we have about our customers, the better we can understand their needs, their requirements, offer services, product, and then grow our revenues. And now in the AI age, data is the fuel for that AI age. But your data is at risk. And that's a risk. And we're going to focus here on my introduction on 4 risks. First is cyber criminals trying to steal your data. Then you have malicious insiders or leavers stealing your data to use in a new job or to sell it. You have 3 negligent users sharing sensitive data with the wrong people or store it in the wrong place with oversharing. And then you have AI, especially generative AI, with access to sensitive data. And the point I'm just trying to make in the beginning is that you can't protect what you don't know. So the risk of misuse is higher if you have no visibility into your data estate, understanding what's happening, what is sensitive, what's the behavior around it, and when does behavior change while protecting the privacy of people, at least the people you have on the inside. So let me explain this risk a little bit more detail. First is external threats to data breach. There's a joke in cybersecurity that there are really only 2 types of companies, those that have been hacked and those that don't know they have been hacked. And cybercrime has become big business. It is actually, if it was a country, that business, the economy would actually rank among the very top global countries on par with some of the big major national GDPs. And the risk of data breach has now actually just growing and growing, driven by multiple forces. One is just identity, social engineering to steal credentials, and others are basically a primary cause for successful breaches. And the interesting stuff is that what are then people looking for, the criminals, when they get in? And data theft is now the default attacker objective. They're focusing on stealing data, not just disrupting system. And ransomware almost always includes exfiltration before encryption. So sensitive data exposure is now expected in most cyber incidents. You also have 3 AI, because that supercharges also the attacker's capabilities. So they use AI and Gen AI to automate phishing, social engineering, and all things to actually get access. But 4, there's also misconfiguration in cloud and apps, so overprivileged identities or unsecured third-party apps. And most breaches begin with a simple configuration gap and then expand from there. And the last 2 I just want to also say is that supply chain and third-party weakness expand the attack surface, because the more you are connected, the more, possibilities might exist. So your breach risk includes everyone you actually are connected to in your supply chain. So therefore, that's one side. And there's a lot of focus in the last few years on cybersecurity to improve that. But we have also these other risks we addressed in the intro. One is the insider threat. According to Forrester Research, 22% of all data breaches originate from inside organization, which means that it might not be, your risk might not just be at the external trying to get in, but actually people that already are on the inside, employees, partners, contractors have access to data. According to Forrester Research, 40% of those data breaches are accidental. People did something wrong or took a shortcut or whatever, didn't care. But there are 47% that are malicious, intentionally act like data theft or sabotage. Or it's also a mix, of course. People don't really perhaps caring, as I said earlier on. And we've basically seen the work with a lot of companies how to address and mitigate this risk. And we see that especially the lever scenario is one of the areas where people then say, oh, I'm going to take this data with me because it will help in my new job. Or internal contractor consultants that see, oh, the work I've done for you, they can help me in my next job, and they try to bring that with them. But the real challenge, which is perhaps not that well addressed on the slide here, is what at the end there, and that is that this is the biggest issue is that what we don't see unless you have tools to basically discover this. Because for every confirmed inside incident, there are many risky behavior that's never escalate into a breach. Unauthorized download, oversharing, send the data to personal devices, misuse of AI tools, accidental sharing of files out of curiosity. So that's the stuff. So there's a lot of, how to say, hidden risk here, the hidden risk surface, unless you have tools actually monitoring this to figure out is something happening. So that's the risk number 2 and 3. And the last one I just want to address is basically AI, because that's, if you're not providing AI tools to your company, they will go out and find the AI tools, and risk are on both sides. So data breach from AI is basically that perhaps you can split it up in 3 major concerns based on recent research. One is data leak and oversharing. Over 80% of leaders cite that this is their primary concern with adopting AI. And second, Microsoft Work Trend Index shows that 78% of users are bringing their own AI to work, or bring your own AI, as we could call it, meaning that they copying sensitive information over to ChatGPT or Claude or so to get help in the work. And there's also then about vulnerabilities, emerging threats coming from AI, but we won't focus that much on this side here. We focus more on the first ones in the stuff in this session. So that's basically just setting the scene here for what we're going to cover. So you know that data breach is both from the inside and also with externals, but the highest risk might actually be from inside already. To help address this in the first topic of how does the Microsoft solution help to address this, avoid data breach or reduce the risk of it from cyber criminals inside the AI, I'm going to hand over to Danica, Principal Group Product Manager for Microsoft Purview at Microsoft. Over to you, Danica.
Thank you so much. And I want to first start by thanking the entire InfoTection team for inviting me to speak today. This is a very important topic, now more than ever. You just heard a lot of statistics about data leaks, oversharing, threats. There's also non-compliance. And at Microsoft, we understand that data security is complex. But having a strategy is going to be essential to protecting your organization's most valuable assets, your crown jewels, your data. Let's go to the next slide. So not only is data growing, but the data sources are growing too. And you can't just start blindly creating policies, because not all data needs the same kind of protection. We understand that there's different types of data, different types of users, different objectives. We know that regulations, be it regional regulations, global regulations, healthcare, education, government, we understand that these are different as well. I've also worked with many customers, and these fragmented solutions that you are working with actually increase your risk. And let's not forget all of the new risks that come with generative AI. We all use it, we're all working through it, but this is what makes this landscape so complex. And we know that there's not one single strategy that fits everything, but it's crucial that every organization have a plan and have a solution that can manage this complexity. So let's go to the next chart. And before I get into specific specific Microsoft products that'll help you in this area, I want to talk about our zero trust approach. And this strategy is across our entire Microsoft security portfolio. And it assumes no user, no device, or application should be trusted by default, regardless of their location. Like, we are locking everything down out of the box. And we want to be able to do this because it is a proactive mindset that assumes that every activity is going to lead to a breach. Every user is going to lead to a breach. It was just mentioned that insider risk is one of the biggest threats. So we want to be able to have security policy enforcement across the entire data estate, which includes identities, devices, data, apps, infrastructure, and networking. And again, this extends across our entire portfolio, and it is a philosophy that we know and we've seen protect our customers and their data estate. So let's go to the next slide. So at Microsoft, we're not just talking about security. We're building it end to end. So we're grounded in trillions of signals that we get in terms of threats that fuel our threat intelligence. And we've built a security stack that's going to help you prevent those data breaches even before they occur. So you're going to see around this circle, and I'll deep dive into each one, but I'll go very specifically deep into Microsoft Purview, not just because that's my team, but it's very pertinent to this conversation. But you have Microsoft Purview, Microsoft Defender, Sentinel, and Entra. And these solutions are not just to protect Microsoft, but our customers as well. Like, we want to make sure that we've got an end-to-end solution that we can then tie generative AI, which is our Microsoft Security Copilot solution, around, so that all of your work streams, all of your security teams can move faster and smarter. Next slide. So I'm going to first briefly talk about Entra. So this is our unified platform for identity and access. So it's going to be designed to secure access for everyone, everywhere, across multi-cloud, across multi-platform environments. So it's going to help customers get full visibility into all the identities, permissions. It's going to automatically right-size your privileges to reduce your risk. And it's going to look at over permissions account and manage those as well. So at its core, Entra is going to enforce identity verification and conditional access. And this is going to make sure that all of your authorized users only have access to the data that they're supposed to have access to. And a really great feature of Entra that I love is permissions management. And a good example of permissions management is if you have an employee that leaves the company, like, this Entra solution is going to quickly detect and revoke any lingering access that this person may have across Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, and then it's going to prevent any potential leaks of any unused or excessively permissioned accounts. So this is a really good solution as we look into data breaches and how to just really control and get visibility into who has access to what. Next slide. So Defender and Sentinel, and these are two solutions that really work great together to deliver threat protection and cloud security. So Defender provides that threat protection that's going to detect and respond to attacks in real time, while Sentinel is going to aggregate the data across the solution, apply some machine learning so that you can identify any threats, and then it's going to orchestrate an automated response so that you can contain those incidents quickly. So the integration of these solutions is going to allow you to proactively threat hunt and contain any security breaches faster. So we've actually had customers reduce and contain incidents that used to take 60 minutes down to 5 minutes. So this is also going to be something that's going to strengthen your security posture, and it's going to allow you to have a lower business impact. And to the point earlier, it's not a matter of who's been breached, but when they'll get breached. Like, these are things that we want to make sure that you just really get ahead of everything and understand what's going on across all of your data estate. Let's go to the next slide, where we get to talk about Purview. So Purview is the integrated solution that's going to allow you to secure and govern, again, your entire data estate. We are very strongly talking about the entire data estate because we know that our customers have data in a lot of different places. And what's really valuable about the Purview portfolio is that it has 3 pillars. So the first pillar is our data security. And this is where we're going to secure data across the life cycle, no matter where the data lives. So this is where you get features like data loss prevention, insider risk management, and information protection, so that your organization can automatically discover, classify, and protect your sensitive data. So any unauthorized sharing or exfiltration, like this is the solution that's going to help you stop that, whether it's stored on M365, Azure, a third-party SaaS app, or on a device. The next pillar, data governance. And this one specifically is responsible for unlocking the value creation from data by enabling responsible data usage. So it's going to provide data discovery, data quality, data curation, and data estate insights. That's going to really make it easier to manage, audit, and ensure compliance. Which leads us to the third pillar, which is data compliance. And this is where we're going to manage critical risk and regulatory requirements with solutions like Compliance Manager, e-discovery, audit, communication compliance, like data lifecycle management, and records management. So you're going to be able to quickly respond to incidents, respond to your legal team asking you for information, respond to any audits, and it's really going to automate retention and deletion. We have customers who have data from 30, 40 years ago, and once they start to turn on these features, they start to understand that this data sits there and can quickly take action. So all of these features make up, again, our unified platform. They share capabilities. You'll see at the bottom, data mapping, data classification, data labeling, data connectors. And this is going to give you that consistent protection without needing to manage multiple point solutions. I mentioned earlier, these fragmented solutions. I've seen customers who have multiple solutions doing similar things, doing different things, and they just aren't talking to each other. They aren't doing all the things that we know that you need to do to avoid these data breaches. And that's the value proposition of Microsoft Purview, and literally the only reason it was created. We know that there was a gap in the industry here, and we know how important it is. So having these solutions, having them work together, having them use policies across all of the different solutions is really what's going to get you that opportunity to safeguard your environment. So let's go to the next slide, because there are some best practices that I really want to talk about and how you can implement Purview. We've got a lot of things that we actually do out of the box, and it is really related to what we call secure by default. Like Purview is designed to automatically discover, classify, and label the sensitive data across your entire data estate. So again, your apps, your services, your devices. And what that means is by default, sensitive data is identified and protected without all the extra configuration. There's not a lot of manual configuration here. We know what needs to be done to just help a customer get secure very, very quickly. Next, we're going to use data loss prevention, and we're going to enforce those DLP policies across your M365 workloads. So your SharePoint, your Teams, your OneDrive, all your endpoints. And this is going to help monitor and block any unauthorized sharing or exfiltration of sensitive data. And what's going to connect these solutions, information, data loss prevention, and insider risk, is what we call adaptive protection. And this feature is going to automatically assign users to the appropriate DLP policies, to the appropriate data lifecycle management policies, and again, what I just mentioned, intra-conditional access policies to ensure that high-risk users, which is what insider risk management helps us to understand, that those users get governed more strictly by default. So being able to have features like adaptive protection kind of wrap around all of this, giving you a score to understand who's a risky user, who's been doing things that your company has decided they do not want folks to do, it really helps you to understand a lot of this information by default. And you'll be able to see all of this, again, across the entire data estate. And by using these default integrations, Purview is going to provide an integrated solution, and we're unifying that. You'll see across the bottom with data security posture management. And this is a feature, we'll go to the next slide, that we talked about extensively at our Microsoft Ignite event about 2 or 3 weeks ago. Because this one, it's newer. It's a newer feature, but it is a top feature ask from customers because it's going to address some really key pain points in terms of managing your data security posture. So our customers wanted a comprehensive view of understanding and managing their data security posture. They want integrated process and shared understanding across the data and the user context. And again, there's just a lot of data. The volume's high, the quantity of alerts are high. So folks really just want something that's going to give them that visibility, that access, and that understanding to be able to control their sensitive data. So it's going to allow data security, governance, compliance teams to really collaborate with a unified solution. It's going to streamline your investigations, prioritize a lot of your remediations, and it's really just going to make data security a team sport. I talk about this a lot with customers. Data security is a team sport, and you want to make sure that everybody's got the right visibility to do the right things. So let's go to the next slide. And this is really just showing our actual data security posture management dashboard. And you'll see this is a single pane of glass to discover your data risk. It's going to get recommendations on actions. It's got more tools that are just really going to help you reduce your risk of a data breach. Like this is something that it's going to give you the visibility you need. It's going to highlight top risk. It's going to give you some actions that you can take. And it's going to give you that opportunity to just continuously monitor and be more proactive about threats and about how you respond to them in real time. So it's very important to this conversation. And again, it's something that we know is a top ask for customers just to be able to really understand and to be able to act quickly. So let's go to the next chart. So I'm going to kind of wrap up a bit here, give Vivek some time and see if there are any questions. But, our goal here with Microsoft Security is just to help our customers achieve more. We use these products. We know what they do. Like we're a company that's really just looking to help business achieve more. And we're really proud of the fact that we've been doing this at a high level for so long. This is our approach. This is a comprehensive approach. It is unmatched in the industry. It is best of breed in terms of protection, in terms of what we're doing with generative AI. And what you'll see at the nucleus of this circle that wraps around, that is a part of all these products is our security copilot. So this is going to supercharge not just what we're doing at Microsoft, but what our customers are doing with generative AI and help you defend with machine speed. So this is something that, again, was a big part of our Microsoft Ignite conference. It's now included in some of the license that we have for free. So I really want to make sure that I not just talk about how we're going to secure your data, but then also how we're going to help you respond faster, how we're bringing in generative AI into the platform, how we're using all of the signals that come in and really being responsible about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it can help you as a customer and, again, us as Microsoft. So there's a lot of opportunity in this portfolio. We're always looking and making sure that we're understanding what's kind of happening in the world, who those threat actors are, what businesses want to be able to do. And right now, we're just really excited about being able to support the entire data estate. You'll see some of the logos around here, multi-cloud, multi-platform, multi-AI, and just really being able to bring the right solutions to our customers at the right time. And for sure, now is the right time. So I'm going to stop there. I'm going to give Vivek some time. And definitely, if there are some questions, I'll take a look at the chat because I too can't double task and definitely answer any questions that you may have.
So thank you, Danica, for that excellent summary and overview. I would actually, I'm going to ask you at the end instead, but to give you some time to think, are there other news from Ignite that you feel like people should know about? But let's save that for the end after Vivek's session and also to see if there's other questions from the attendees here. So then how to then do this? What is required of an organization to improve data security? What are roles, responsibilities, the governance setup? To address that, I'm going to hand over to Vivek Bhatt. Excellent experience on this topic. So over to you, Vivek.
Well, thank you. And Danica, thank you. That was a great session. There is so much in the Microsoft security product and has evolved so much, in the last several years. I will talk slightly boring topic on operationalizing all of these capabilities. So as you get all of these new features, they're all great features solving lots of challenges for organizations. My focus is to talk about the importance of setting this up as a service within the organization, and that's something the customers I'm working with, the whole of this year, and really for 2026, the executive theme is very clear: data security as a service, not just tools, not just a project or a one-off project, but a managed outcome-driven service layer, because that's the only way to embed all of these new security controls, the new threats, the new risks which are emerging. It's really not scalable to do that as a long-running project. So most organizations who are moving in this direction of leveraging Microsoft security solutions, whether you are E3, E5, using Microsoft Purview, using DLP, etc., they've kind of turned them on. But not many organizations have until 2025 actually looked at it as a sustainable service. So there is a cybersecurity organization, but it's only very recently in 2025 or late 2024 we started to hear a lot about data security as a service. So that's where we kind of see projects kind of stalling or quietly just disappearing after having implemented something as a project lifecycle. Maybe you have done a project where you've decided to implement some labels, some policies, but there isn't a roadmap beyond the project if this is not established as a service. So what we're talking about today is, I want to talk about today is outsourcing the heavy lifting part of the operating model, the day-to-day running and continuous improvement of all of these features which need to be implemented, which need to be activated while you retain policy ownership and decision rights. And we're seeing this across all organizations. There isn't enough staff in the organizations to be able to take on a regular basis the implementation of all of these features. So in the next 15 minutes, I'll try to show you treating data security as an outsourced service, how that can give you faster time to value, lower operational risks, and of course, the topic of this year has all been AI, so a better foundation for AI. Next slide, please, Atla. All right, so again, some numbers. I won't read through all of these numbers, but the point I'm trying to make here is that these numbers tell us the pressure the leadership is under, whether it is a CISO or a compliance organization. These numbers don't describe a project. They are describing an ongoing service, a continual discovery, a continual classification, and continual need for tuning all of the controls which Danica talked about, which you are trying to implement as a project as the use cases are expanding across. And especially with the AI, there are more use cases which are emerging, which can't practically all be bundled into a project. Most internal teams simply don't have the bandwidth or specialist skills to run this as a 365-day-a-year service on top of the existing cybersecurity responsibilities. Right. So the benefit of kind of thinking of implementing a separate data security as a service as an internal organization or as an outsourced organization is that that service brings a ready-made playbook, run books, very much focused on the data side of things and leveraging Microsoft Purview and these security solutions so you don't spend 2 years reinventing the wheel. You get shared experience, you get multiple customers who are part of this group, who are driving Microsoft, driving partners like InfoTections, and generally driving this whole community, which is looking at embedding this as a specific service layer focused on data. Next slide, please. So when I say service or an operating model, I mean how the service actually runs within the organization, the people, the process, the technology side of things that run Purview features into delivering some reliable outcomes, not just as a one-off implementation. Most organizations underestimate the operational work that is required. This is something which gets done during the project, but designing your labels, designing your policies, triaging outcomes from these policies, especially working with the business to understand what new data types, what new emerging scenarios for which new policies, new data loss prevention policies, and cyber risk management policies need to be created. So it's a continuous process. You will not see an organization who has built these policies and said, that's it. So rather than you learning by these painful trial and error methods, having this established as a service, implementing the core capabilities, the baseline, which we talked about from a Microsoft security perspective as a project, and then very quickly transition that into an operational service. So the rest of the capabilities over time, over months, over years, can come in as the technology evolves, as the use cases evolves. So the message I have here on this slide is that without a clear operating model, even the best of the tools will fail. So without having a managed operating model, you can't make data security predictable, measurable, scalable, et cetera, et cetera. And so instead of rushing into implementing something as a project, you should always think about having an operating model defined. How would you introduce this as a service to your business? How would you introduce, very similar to how other services work within the organization, like Azure service, you have a Microsoft 365 service, you have an infrastructure service, you have device service, identity service, etc., which means data security needs to be as a service as well in order to make sure that it gets the right priority, not just from a project implementation perspective, but operational perspective as well. Next slide, please, Atla. So the benefits, just very quickly highlighting, is all about delivering predictable outcomes, not best efforts. We also want to measure cost and capacity benefits. So projects tend to be expensive, where there is also a pressure to do a lot within a short span of time in order to deliver value. And hence the projects should be very much focused on delivering an MVP, and operationalization should kind of embed and sustain the capabilities and add more capabilities on top of the MVP. Continuous improvement as a service is by design. An external service or an internal service, when it is established, every service has a KPI, every service has an SLA. So you're kind of tying all of these capabilities, all of these controls, policies, rules, classifications, not just as a best endeavor effort, but it is really tied to a service's KPIs, a service's SLA, exactly how all the other services are measured. So strong incentive to continuously refine your policies, continuously bring automation, reduce the burden on users to do the right thing, but have policies and controls in place so that these policies are acting on the standards and practices which you have implemented. The final point, of course, is that this will also show you that over time that it supports your AI readiness. You're all going through that AI adoption process. As you can see that you may have taken some Copilot accelerated workshops, some pilots with Copilot, and now looking to expand Copilot across the organization. And that expansion of AI, whether it is Copilot or custom AI or third-party AI, will take time to embed into the organization. And hence, the scenarios emerging around that is not something that you will do as a project. There needs to be a specific service to handle AI-related scenarios in context of your data. And of course, from an identity perspective, AI increasingly, I ran another session yesterday where somebody said that a CISO actually said that they see AI or AI agents now increasingly as highly privileged identities. It's very similar to how you have highly privileged accounts which are accessed and used by people to perform administrative activities. AI is kind of considered in very similar category. Next slide, please. Just a very high level structure. If you're looking to kind of do it by yourself as a develop your own framework on how you will operationalize data security in your organization, there are three key things you must focus on. First, an alignment on the organizational roles and responsibilities, the decision making. Where does the decision making lie related to what's sensitive, what's not sensitive, which policies, which scenarios, which behaviors will allow certain activities, will block certain activities, in which scenarios the the configuration or the policies will trigger an investigation, and what would be the escalation mechanism. So all of that kind of needs to be aligned as part of a governance model. On the next slide, when we get to it, I also have a sample governance structure that you can take from here. So I think that's an important piece. Many organizations struggle with that decision-making ownership. So there is all the right intent, but there's nobody to approve it. There's nobody to kind of say, yes, that's what we want to do as an organization. In that alignment, there are often, I've also seen that organizations want to implement these controls, but they don't have documented policies, standards, policies to actually introduce that as a mandate within the organization. So there is some pre-work required. If you don't have, every organization has kind of privacy standard, but there are organizations who don't have a dedicated data protection, data security standard. So the alignment across organization, legal security, compliance, and technology partners will bring in a group of individuals who can collectively make decisions related to data security. The second element or the second pillar of your target operating model needs to be people, process, and technology. As you're introducing a service, there's a big skills gap right now, and it's undeniable. Most organizations who are bringing on these new solutions, Microsoft Purview technologies, there is a net new skill, there's a net new learning, and every organization is going through. So you're not alone in that process. And as part of that, there needs to be an assessment of the skills required, the resources required, and the additional processes required from a service management perspective, which don't exist today. A simple example would be if a user finds themselves in a situation where they are not allowed to send an email because a data loss prevention policy is blocking them, what service options do they have in order to address that particular scenario if they cannot address it by themselves, right? And then the final piece, the final pillar is, of course, always the measurement. Danica mentioned data security posture management. Microsoft is making a huge amount of investment in that side of things, that as you are implementing these controls, as you're triaging these controls, the data security posture management, the activity audits, the sentinels, the security co-pilots, all of these tools will still need to be integrated in order to make sure that you have a right method to measure what your current data state is, where is your data, um, what compliance controls are applied, what compliance controls are not applied, and how are you measuring the return on this investment that you're going to make by having to implement all of these new security solutions which are coming in. Next slide, please. Right. So this is a very high level reference for that you can take from this session as a governance structure, where governance board is very important, where we normally see that legal compliance, data governance, information security stakeholders come together to form a governance board. This, even whether you outsource the data security as a service or keep it in-house, this governance structure stays within your organization, right? So you set the policies, you define the risk appetite, and this governance board defines brings the definition of what good looks like within the organization. So outsourcing or setting up data security as a service doesn't mean that you give away that control. It means your internal governance focuses on strategy, not day-to-day plumbing, of what policies, tunings, etc. How many alerts are you getting in the system? How many are false positives? How many are true positives, etc. The next is policy setting and enforcement. That's very important aspect. Um, Whatever you do to operationalize your data security service, your governance board needs to be very clear that it defines these rules, classification, retention, protection criteria. That comes from the governance board, which means that it comes with a clear mandate. It's not something which an operational team comes up with a great idea and then implements a policy in the system. It's coming through an approved channel. The outsourced service then acts as a policy architecture and design authority, where that mandate will then be evaluated by this operating structure, where subject matter experts, technical experts will come together and say, what's the best solution within this Microsoft security stack to implement and apply this control? And you will 9 out of 10 times will find that there are more than one controls within the Microsoft security stack will come together to solve a problem. Okay, so understanding from a roles and responsibilities perspective, from an organizational structure perspective, how these different controls will sit together. Where does identity sit? Where does DLP sit? Where does Purview, the DSPM sits? Where does Defender? Where does Copilot? Sentinel sit? Is all very important from an operational structure perspective, because there is never going to be one person who owns all of this within the organization. And so this governance structure will make sure that those right stakeholders are part of this conversation. Those stakeholders are jointly making these decisions and then delegating the responsibility of actually executing the decisions. Next slide, please. So lessons learned from customers, just very briefly, our most successful customers don't ask for a one-off DSPM project. They ask for, how do we start the journey? Where do we start from? What are the first steps we must take? And then very quickly go on to an ongoing, service model, operationalize it. Yeah. So for example, protect customer PII or personal sensitive information, secure AI training data, manage insider risk. These are the themes which customers would start as, that we want to start with this theme, and then on the back of this theme, build a more extensive, a more long-term roadmap that we can operationally continue to implement. So these scenarios, whether it is securing AI, getting data AI ready, managing insider risk, these scenarios are packaged, repeated, and improved across clients. So especially because you're not the only one who is going through this process, there are several who have gone through this journey before you. There are several lessons learned with Microsoft, with Microsoft partners like in protection, where these lessons are available so that you don't have to go through that, through your own, hard way of learning through these and trying to make things work and don't work, and then figure out what's the best way to get these technologies to work together. So where we see failures is when Purview is implemented, kind of like a one-off thing. You've bought licenses, you've got some funding available, you've implemented something, and then after that, there's nobody to carry that forward. So that's kind of is the big gotcha, which I would say, please think about. Even if you have that funding from Microsoft, in that funding, make sure that you think about what will happen after that funding, right? What will happen operationally? How will you take it forward? Who will take this forward? If you don't have an answer to that, don't start, right? Because you will deploy something which is halfway house, and it just wouldn't grow and improve. It will just sit there. Where we see success is there's a clear service definition. There is a clear focus on not just what will happen in next 2 months, 3 months, but there's a clear direction from an organization on where do they want to see themselves in 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, year on year, right? And at which point do they see as an organization to be able to handle this new capability as a service internally within the organization. So that operationalization is a theme. Securing sensitive data is a theme, which is a continuous thing. AI and agent governance is a theme, which is again going to be a continuous thing. There's some fantastic announcement Microsoft made at Ignite about agents, etc. Which is great, but it is going to create more complexity as well, which an organization has to deal with it, and you can't spin up a project for every single one of them. Okay, next slide, please, is an offering from InfoTection, sort of trying to bring it all together. the future of data security isn't about one-off projects. It's about delivering security scenarios on a continuous basis, which means organizations can stay ahead of the emerging threats when you know that you're actively working on a regular basis. So again, a clear target operating model is an absolute must, and a scalable and adaptive protection is the only way to keep pace. You will not have one policy for everyone. You will have different departments, different users, different teams in the organization who will have different scenarios. So that needs to be adaptive. Your policies need to be focused on specific scenarios, specific countries, specific geographies. And for that, the service needs to understand how will it gain resilience, agility. So you can focus on defining those controls, identifying those risks, and the operational organization can focus on how best to implement it. So that covers my part. Still have a few minutes. So Atle, over to you.
Thank you, Vivek. Really good. So I have some question here for actually both of you before we close here. First is actually Danica. You mentioned data security posture management and some news around that at Microsoft Ignite, but there was a lot of other things also. What would you say are the must know or the most interesting stuff that people need to be aware of that were introduced at Ignite?
Definitely. So there was a lot that was introduced at Ignite, not just across Purview, but across the Microsoft security portfolio as a whole. And Vivek just made a good point about all the agents that we did announce. We announced 40 new security copilot agents that are across all of the solutions that I've talked about today, Intra, Defender, Purview. But one of the key announcements was our Microsoft Agent 365. And this is where we get a unified control panel for managing both human users and our agents. So that was a really big announcement because, again, it wraps across the entire portfolio, but it enables our organizations to deploy and govern these agents with end-to-end security and compliance. So we know there's a lot happening in AI, in agents, but this is going to give you the opportunity to feel confident and secure about the usage of those agents. We also had some enhancements across Purview for M365 Copilot, so things like bulk remediation. There was some expansion on DLP for M365 Copilot, where we're now going to safeguard prompts in real time, blocking responses that include sensitive data. We've got some on-demand classification that's going to allow for priority cleanup of some of these deletions of risky assets. There were things, again, across data security posture management. We've got a unified experience there. We've got a new partner ecosystem. There was also, again, the announcement about Security Copilot being available in E5 at no extra cost. There's also reporting. That was a very, very key feature and an ask that my team has, heard for years in terms of new reports across information protection, DLP, on-prem, and licensing, like some really good reports that, again, are just going to improve your posture and the insights of those. I'm going to stop there, but there was still a lot more network DLP, browser DLP, cloud DLP, data protection and labeling. Like there was so much that we could talk about. So I'm going to leave everybody some homework. Like get to Microsoft.com/security. All of our products, information, opportunities to learn more, our Ignite sessions. Again, this is our largest Microsoft conference of the year. All of those videos from all of those really great presentations are available online. The recordings are there already. And I'm going to say to join our customer community program. Microsoft has a customer community program. It's called CCP, where you can learn more in terms of roadmaps. You can get into private previews before they're available to the general public. You can work with our engineering teams, my teams there, and really just provide feedback, insights, what your company or organization wants to do next with the product. Just a really good opportunity to engage with the Microsoft engineering teams. Also, these data security workshops that our InfoTection team have, please make sure you reach out and understand more about those. These are high quality workshops and they're funded. So definitely contact your InfoTection team, folks who are on this call now. to see if you qualify, and let's build something together. Like, we are always ready and available. We partner greatly with Infotection, so I'd love to, deep dive into more topics at a later date, but definitely there's a lot of information that's available, and I'd love to see you in the community connection, the customer community program.
Thank you. Vivek, since you mentioned the skill gaps, and now Danica addressed how to address the skills gap. Anything you want to add?
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot from Microsoft, and of course, there are training programs we also run, especially focused on, Purview products, whether they are security products or compliance products. And Danica already mentioned that these funded workshops are a great way to learn, where you can bring your, security team, operational team, etc. Not only we will go through the product capabilities, but we will also provide some skills on those sessions. They are a great way to kind of just use the Microsoft, funding, the partner value without having to sort of get into a contract with, an external organization. So those would be good ways. There are also customer advisory, especially in the UK. Some of our team runs the customer advisory groups, just a general community in the UK. We can share, when we share the link of the slides with you, you can join those as well. Great for the UK public sector. I would say there's a great presence from, plenty of UK public sector organizations who come in to talk about privacy, security, records management, and now AI as well.
And thank you. And Danica, just one last question for you. The solutions you cover a lot in your session, and then more deep dive into Purview. How can people learn more about this, or the solution, the technologies, the features, the value, or to even test them out? Any advice?
Yes. So again, our Microsoft.com/security, there's a lot of really great content in terms of what we call MS Learn. And then again, we've got opportunities to get into test environments. We've got opportunities in click-through demo environments. Again, there's the opportunity to workshop with partners, but there's just a lot that we can do in terms of helping you not just understand what we do, but then to also create that value for your organization. So definitely reach out, and we can definitely get you in contact with either the right teams, or definitely with the Infotection team to learn more, to get educated, and to get a part of our previews and how we're building out these products.
Thank you. Vivek, any closing recommendations? I think you made a good point that we shouldn't think of this as now we're done with data security, we can move on to another topic. It's more like this has to be a service, a journey that's continuing improving. So just want to see any closing comments.
Yeah, when you think of embedding and sustaining, it's that's the kind of the key message from us, is that you're never done with this topic. We've been several years we've been working in the information governance space. It's kind of never done. It's a continuous thing. So yeah, successful organizations are always thinking of embedding, sustaining, and improving.
Any closing comments from you, Danica? Last word.
No, again, thank you for inviting me here, and I look forward to seeing everyone on this call in our community program.
Thank you. So I would say thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Danica, for excellent content. Thank you to all of you for borrowing your time and listening to us. We will send you a recording probably on Monday. But please, I shared my email address. You can also contact@infotection.com. If you want to have a meeting, happy to have that. Also to sign the NDAs if you want, to basically have more a one-on-one conversation, to hear what are your challenges, your risk, and how can we support either from a technology point of view or as data security as a service. So thank you again, speakers. Thank you again, attendees. I look forward to hearing from you and having a follow-up conversations. Have a good one. Thank you all.